you go. So this morning, we're looking at doing sound yoga. And we're going to focus on the simple sound, and it's really not that simple, but the sound of Om. So just to set us up this morning, you can come to a comfortable seat. You can be using your chair if you like. And I just want to provide you with a little bit of, kind of the explanation of the approach that we're taking today. So what we think of as solid matter, like our bodies, is actually a manifestation of energy. Every single thing that exists in the physical universe can be thought of in terms of energy vibrating at different frequencies. Our human consciousness is normally only aware of what the five senses can perceive. So we can only tune in to certain bandwidths, just like your radio will only pick up certain stations, depending on your geographic location and the strength of the signal. Our human consciousness is like a radio that can only tune into certain stations. It's a small percentage of the available energy waves. Another way to think about this is UV light or other lights on the spectrum that we actually can't see as color, but do exist. And technology has started to reveal some of those to us. So with practice, we can begin to sense this dance of creation within ourselves, how these waves of energy formulate our physical matter. The progression of consciousness can lead to enlightenment, and this is just my opinion, but I think sometimes when we hear stories of, for example, Christ walking on water, or the ancient yoga gurus being able to be in two places at the same time, or make loaves and fishes, somebody just zooming in here, loaves and fishes out of nothing. I think that's a lot to do with this understanding of our matter as energy waves. So moving towards this state of consciousness where we can tune in to the waves of energy is sometimes referred to as healing. And we have intuitive healers or people that work in this realm it's too bad Cindy isn't here this morning because she works in this realm for healing, who understand how to work with energy waves and can offer us that consciousness of what's going on. The ancients had a much better grasp of these ideas, and they developed sophisticated practices to harness this creative power. And one type of knowledge based on awareness of nature and observation of nature is the power of sound. And we're going to try to harness some of that this morning. We're going to work with the syllable Om. And I know you've all chanted Om probably with me before, but it is actually the seed sound, or in yoga they say the bija sound of the universe, the word of faith in many religions that you may have practiced. For example, if you go to church, like I've been to church, and you say amen, that's actually an etymological growth from the word Om, as is shalom. So it's very, very old primal sound. And we're going to go into a couple different aspects of Om as we go through the practices and use Om in our movement. But we're going to start in a seated position. So sit a little bit forward in your chair, feet firm on the floor. And if you've elected not to use a chair today, just make sure that you have enough padding underneath your tushy so your hip joints are higher than your knee joints. And for my long-legged friends, you might have to have padding on your chair seat so that your hip joints are higher than your knee joints. And let's look at the fact that Om, we often pronounce it as one syllable, but Om can actually be three syllables. Ah, oo, and And each one of these three syllables has a specific kind of meaning. So and there could be different interpretations. Let's look at the first interpretation today. The first sound, ah, represents your normal waking consciousness. Oo, the second syllable, your dreaming state of consciousness. And when you're in that deep, dreamless sleep. So let's use the three separate syllables of Om as we chant 3 times together. And I like to bring my hands together at the heart to create a prayerful intention, a sacred intention for our work. And then I'm going to lift up as I inhale and then chant as I exhale. So let's do this together. You can close your eyes if you like. Inhaling. And again. one. And as you divide the syllable into three parts, think of the three states of consciousness. And after you chant Om, often it's traditional to leave a small silent space. And in this silent space, we acknowledge a fourth state of consciousness, that place of perfect equanimity, peace, and balance, the state of healing, the state of enlightenment. So it's a special state of consciousness called samadhi in yoga. All right. Let's come to a standing position and we'll get some movement going today. So I'm going to adjust my workspace a little bit here. I have my chair where it won't move. Cleaned off my mat of props. And let's see how the angle of my computer is. I might have to bring it down just a little bit. It's not an ideal angle this morning, but we'll work with what we've got. Happy Canada Day, everybody. So we're going to come into a little bit of joint fraying this morning. I'm going to angle my camera down so you can see the feet a little bit more than the upper body. And we're going to work into a little bit of energy wave initiation. So we talked about matter being formed of energy waves. And so what we're doing here is we're starting to really control or initiate some of those energy waves. So as you inhale, lift the toes, fan them up. As you exhale, gather the toes down and try to scrunch up your mat with your toes. And then inhale, lift. And exhale, scrunch. Do that a couple more times. This really strengthens the muscles on the bottom of the feet. And then when you're ready, you can come up onto the balls of the feet as you inhale. Exhale, lower the heels. Know your chair is here. You could have the back of the chair right here to help you with balance if you need that. And then leaving the feet on the ground, as you inhale, roll to the outside edges of the feet. And as you exhale, roll to the inside edges of the feet. Do the best you can to keep your knees facing straight forward so you're not knocking knees as you come in. This is a movement for the ankle joint. Then after you've done that a couple times, again, you might want to hang on to your chair. Just roll the ankle joint around and then reverse directions, coordinating that with your inhale and your exhale. And then inhale, straighten your knee. Exhale, bend. And again, you could be hanging onto your chair if you need any help with balance today. We'll go back to standing in one spot. And then let's do the other ankle. You can be hanging onto the chair if you need to, inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. And a couple more breaths like that. Okay. And then let's move into some movements for the hip. And again, you might want to have the chair turned around just so that you have that confidence if you need that. From mountain pose, keeping your body square and settled. Inhale, just lift the leg out to the side, and exhale, bring the legs together. And notice my body staying straight up and down as I do this. It's not leaning out to the side. This is a movement where you work on the hip muscles now. Good. Then I'm going to turn sideways. You're fine where you are, but it just might be easier to show. As you inhale, take the leg forward, and as you exhale, swing the leg back. So notice again, my body is staying straight up and down. It's just my leg that's moving. And then switching legs. And these are pretty simple movements. But what we're doing is we're getting those energy waves and we're kind of coordinating them and directing them in our bodies. Last movement for the hip joint. Lift your leg up, and as you inhale, turn the kneecap out. And as you exhale, turn the kneecap in. Again, the hips are staying steady and square right where they were. They're not shifting around. It's just the leg that is moving here. And I might be exaggerating the amount of movement. You might not be doing that much movement. But the idea is to get this leg bone so it will move out and turn back in, all on its own, with its own muscles. That's a movement we use a lot when we do our warrior poses and other standing poses. Okay, that's all the lower body. I'm just going to angle the computer a bit differently so we can put our body together. So for mountain pose, and if you're getting tired sitting or standing, because that's a lot of work on the hips, you might want to sit and do seated mountain pose and do these movements from your chair, which would be fun. Inhale, fan out the fingers. Exhale, gather the fingers in a light fist. And do that for a couple more breaths. And then rolling the wrists around in one direction as you inhale and switching that as you exhale. So we're going to use a lot of sound today to move the energy waves in our body. Inhale, exhale. But we're used to, in movement, using intentional movement to shift energy waves in our body. So it makes yoga so different from other exercise modalities. Inhale, bring the shoulder blades together at the back. Exhale, separate the shoulder blades on your back. And we'll just do that for 2 more breaths. And again, I'm going to turn sideways to show this. You're fine right where you are. Inhale, draw the arms back. And exhale, lift the arms up alongside the ears. Each arm is moving its own free range of motion. You don't have to force your arm to go anywhere it doesn't want to go. Notice my body is staying steady in one straight line. Just the arms are moving. And last movement for the shoulders. Inhale. Oh, you shouldn't have. Exhale. Go on with ya. So if you want to, you can keep the elbows a little closer into the body or do one arm at a time if being too surprised is tough on the shoulders today. Okay. Taking a moment just to absorb how just those simple movements, but we have a lot of deep intention, really start to bring us into the body, into our awareness of our own consciousness. You can separate the feet a little bit if that allows you a bit more stable base of support. We're going to go into some half moon stretches now. And if you find holding your arms up for a little while gets tiresome, just take the hands to the hips and do the movement from the hips. And you're getting the same benefit. You just don't have that pressure of holding the arms up. So on the inhale, bring your spine nice and long and straight. Exhale, lean to one side. Inhale, come back up to center. And exhale, lean to the other side. Now I have a slight bend in my knees. This kind of keeps the muscles in the lower part of my body more activated. Hips are square to the front of my mat. So that this movement is really between the armpit and the hip bone. I'm really lengthening the side body. Now this is the last one for me. I've gone 3 times to each side. And I'm going to come back up as I inhale and exhale, come back to mountain pose. Now if you've turned your chair around, let's bring it so the seat of the chair is facing you. And we're going to come into now some sun salutations. I'm going to use the chair. And if you are familiar with doing sun salutations without a chair and you prefer that, then of course you're going to do your own thing. And this is where we might start adding in the sound of Om. So here's another interpretation of Om, the 3 sounds of Om. Ah, oo, is in, in yoga, we often have these deities, or sometimes we might refer to them, I hope I can say this word right, anthropomorphizations of different divine energy types. So the energy of movement and change is Shiva. The energy of preservation, of holding things the same, is Vishnu. And the energy of creating a new synthesis of that, or equanimity, is Brahma. So as we chant, we're actually nodding to all three of the male trinity in the yoga philosophy bandwidth. So we're honoring the energies of the universe, of movement, of preservation, and of balance. So let's come into our sun salutation and try to, if you can, keep that in mind. We're going to chant Om on the exhales. To kind of that, we're paying homage to how the universal energy flows. And we're finished with that, trying to find balance in everything that we do. And speaking to that, hands can come together at the heart, right and left hand connect. That's one way to suggest that we really want to find balance. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale, reach up to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift the chest, reach it forward through the arms. And exhale, step your right leg back into lunge. On the inhale, there's an option to lift just your right arm or both arms or no arms. On your exhale, step to table pose. So your knees could be on the ground or you could be using the chair. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, round out the back. Inhale, step the right foot forward, left foot back. You found your lunge. Inhale, you can lift your left arm or both arms or no arms. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, reach the sky. Exhale, hands to the heart. So that's the basic sun salutation with the chair. You could be having your knees right on the ground and doing table pose that way. So let's add the sound of Om on the exhales and see how this feels. See how it feels different from that first round when we add the sound of Om. Okay, let's do this together. Ready? Inhale. Om. Inhale. Left leg back now. Om. Inhale. Table pose. Om. Inhale, extend the spine. Om. Inhale, left foot forward lunge. Om. Inhale, lift your arms if you're choosing that. Om. I'm just noticing how that felt different to incorporate the sound of Om in that movement. Let's try something different. Let's try Warrior One, a little bit of a moving version of Warrior One. So we're going to take our right leg, step our right leg back as though we were going to do lunge again. Take the right foot a little bit out to the side of the mat. I'll just face you here. And then let the whole foot come down. So our hips are facing in the same direction as they were when we were doing our sun salutations. The front knee is bent directly over top of the ankle. And our back foot is really rooting into the floor. So we're not just up on the ball of the foot anymore back there. The whole foot is down, especially the outside edge of the foot. So we've got a wide enough base of support that we feel stable into the earth. And we can bend and straighten that front knee and it goes in a straight line like it's in a railroad track. We're strengthening our knee quite a bit when we're doing that movement. So let's come into Warrior One on the exhales. This kind of movement maybe. Our surprise pose again. And then on the inhales, coming back up, knee straightens, and we pull out of the pose. And let's add the sound of Om here. When you're ready, inhale here. Om. And pull back out of the pose. Om. Om. And on your exhale, step forward into your mountain pose. So noticing how the sound waves perhaps help the intention of the posture penetrate into your consciousness a bit more deeply. Let's step the left leg back. Initially, we're in lunge pose, but then we turn the whole foot back there to the floor. Our hips stay square, just like they were when we were doing sun salutations. We start with the legs straight, inhaling. Om. 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 And coming into our mountain pose. Breathing in and breathing out. And then when you're ready, turn sideways on your mat and take your feet pretty far apart. You can start to stretch the hips a little bit here. And all that work we did when we're turning the kneecap out and turning the kneecap in, we're moving the leg back and forth, that's going to come in handy now. So we're going to take this right leg, turn it outward so the toes are facing the short edge of the mat. And if your right knee needs a little bit of a bend, that's fine. Now the left leg, you may want to step it forward a couple inches and internally rotate. So the kneecap is facing a little bit that way. You can try that if that makes your hips feel a little bit more comfortable or your knee joints feel a little bit more comfortable. So placing your feet with intention, making sure that both of the feet can have all four corners of the feet on the earth. And remember, if that right knee needs a little bit of bendiness, that's fine. We're going to work a little bit in triangle pose now. So we'll incorporate the sound of Om. So this is the movement I was thinking we could try. As you come into triangle pose, we'll inhale. And then as we exhale, we'll take the top arm up over top and stretch as much as you can. Do the Om sound with this. And then inhale, come back up. So we're going to try that moving, incorporating the sound of Om. So are you ready? Let's inhale. Om. And exhale, relax. And try that again. Exhale to relax and let the sound waves penetrate a little bit more deeply. And last time on this side. Turn the feet parallel. Take a breath in and out. And then we'll begin to adjust the left leg. So the left leg bone rolls out. The left toes are pointing to the short edge of the mat. And if your left knee needs a little bit of bend to it, that's fine. And remember, the right leg can make some adjustments too. When you're ready, inhale. Om. last one. Turning the legs parallel. Now, if forward folding all the way is uncomfortable for you, you might want to bring the chair in front of you. And the way you would do that is to leave the posture for a moment, grab the chair, pick it up so it's right in front of you, turn your whole body, place the chair where you want it, and then come into your wide-legged forward fold. So it's important whenever you're, say, out in the garden or you want to lift your grandchild, you want to be facing the weight you want to pick up, use your legs to lift, and then turn your whole body, your feet, your whole body with the weight close to your body. If I would have picked up the chair like this, I just mentioned this because I've seen way too many backs go like that. If I would have been standing like this and reached over to pick up the chair and move like that, that's when my back is in a very vulnerable position. So just to reiterate, I faced the chair, picked the chair up, kept it close to my body as I moved it into position. So that way my back is much less vulnerable. Okay. So you don't need to have a chair for this, but you may choose to have one. It is certainly safer for our mature spines to be using a chair in this. When you're ready, our feet are still quite a bit of a distance apart, almost in a pigeon-toed position. And the movement is to inhale, lengthen the spine, exhale, hinge at the hips. We're hinging just halfway over and taking the hands to the floor or to the chair. As you inhale, take your right hand to your backside and lift the heart towards the right side of the room. And as you exhale, come back to center, lengthen the spine, and inhale, lift to the other side of the room. Actually, can I change my mind on the breathing pattern? It's a woman's prerogative to change your mind, isn't it? Let's twist on the exhales. I think I feel better about that. So we'll inhale, lengthen the spine, and exhale, twist to the right. Inhale, lengthen the spine, and exhale, twist to the left. Okay, so that's the movement. Let's add the sound of Om. Notice that my hips were staying stable and square to the floor. I wasn't twisting my hips as I came into the movement. All right, you ready? Inhaling. Om. And inhale, lengthen the spine. We'll exhale, twist. Om. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Om. Let's go to each side 2 more times. Om. 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 Come to center, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, forward fold. Now, for those of you using the chair, you can just rest your head on a chair. That might be the most comfortable thing to do. If you have the flexibility and enjoy a full forward fold, you can bring your hands right to the ground. Your head will be looking back in between your legs. And then for the next 3 breaths, let's rest in stillness here, allowing the sound of Om to reverberate silently on your exhales. And when you've completed those 3 breaths, slowly bring yourself back up, taking your time, bringing your feet together for mountain pose. The next pose I was going to do is camel pose, and I was going to use my chair to do camel pose. If you're comfortable on your knees and you like doing camel pose on your knees on the ground, then you can move to that for now. I'm going to use a rolled blanket to give me the benefits of camel pose without the pressure on my knees. So I'm going to take my blanket and roll it up and create my own little bolster, something like this. And I'm going to place it right here at the back of my chair. And this is going to give me the benefits of camel pose without having a lot of pressure on my knees. The other thing you might do, if you have it handy, is use a block between your thighs. And this is whether you're doing the traditional version of camel or the seated version on a chair. If you don't have a block, your full box of Kleenex or your full roll of toilet paper will work here for you. So we're going to come to our whatever way we're seated, either on a chair or on our shins. And try to make sure that if you are using this bolster, that it's in between the shoulder blades. And you can feel a little bit of kind of pressure from this, kind of incorporating a little bit of forward thrust in the thoracic area of the spine. Now it's important for us to really ground the legs. Trying to find the right place for my block this morning. So if you're using a block, it helps because it's going to help you to really gather the energy of the legs in towards each other. So there's a real stabilization in the lower part of the body. For those of us sitting in the chair, we have our feet firmly grounded. We have the thigh bones gathering in towards the block or whatever prop we're using. Same thing on the ground. And then for those of you who are on the ground, you might just take your hands to your sacrum. For those of us on a chair, we can actually grab onto the backs of the chair, the rungs of the chair, the sides of the chair. And then the motion is pretty much the same. As we inhale, we're going to be looking to really elongate the spine and lift the breastbone straight up to the sky. And then relax a little bit on the exhales. And again, we can incorporate the sound of Om. So when you're ready, inhaling. Exhale. Om. And for those of you who are on the ground, you can Om yourself right to child's pose if you want to. Om. Om. And then let's hold our camel pose and silently repeat Om to yourself for the next 3 exhales. Elongating the spine, holding camel pose, silently repeating Om on the exhales. And then slowly releasing the posture. For those of you who are on your knees, just sit in thunderbolt pose, so just kneel for a moment. For those of us in the chair, we're going to take out our bolster that we've created and just sit in seated mountain pose. So just a couple breaths to neutralize the spine before we go into a counter pose. Now, for those of you that are on the ground, who are kneeling right now, what you might do is you might inhale and come into table pose, exhale back into prayer pose, inhale into table pose, and exhale back into down dog. I'm going to demonstrate that using the chair. So my inhale is table pose. My exhale is prayer pose. My inhale is table pose. And my exhale is downward facing dog. Let's go through that incorporating Om. Inhale. Om. Om. do one more round of that. Om. Om. Staying in down dog for the next 3 breaths, silently repeating Om on your exhales. And then making our way back to the chairs. Your chair's fine where it is. I'm just turning mine so that I can see you better. Now, if you are really comfortable with pigeon pose, without any props on the floor, if your knees and hips are very happy with that, you can go from down dog to right foot forward pigeon pose. I'm going to use my chair to help me find pigeon today, knowing that I may have to make some modifications if my knee or hip are particularly stiff. So let's start with the right leg. You can do regular pigeon pose if that's part of your practice, right from down dog. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right knee and I'm going to lift it up as high as I can, turn the knee out to the side and cross the right ankle over the left thigh. Now, if you find that this is a little bit uncomfortable for you, you could just cross down here. And if you have books, a block, a small stool to put underneath your foot down here so that you get this movement with your leg, but there's no pain in the hip or the knee. Today, my leg's going to allow me to do this. Try to make sure no matter what version of this posture you're doing that you're flexing the right ankle. This helps to keep the knee in a healthier position. And then if you are in pigeon on the floor, just follow along with us. You're going to be doing the same movement with the upper body. So when you're ready, we'll inhale, elongate the body. Exhale, hinge forward just a little bit. Let's add the sound of Om to this. Inhale. Om. Try to keep both sitting bones equal to the ground. Om. Your right ankle is flexed. Om. And maybe we hold this position. Wherever you forward folded to is perfect. If you're on the ground, you might need your fists under your forehead, or your arms to support you. Silently repeating Om in your own mind for the next 3 exhales. When you're ready to leave the posture, inhale. And try to move your leg all on its own, not using your hands to move the leg if you're using the chair. That strengthens the hip muscles. So you might be back to down dog if that's your jam today, or I'm using a seated mountain pose to find a neutralizing, balanced way to assimilate those energy waves. And I don't know about you, but I'm really sensing that using Om today is bringing the postures just into deeper places in my body. My conscious level is changing. Let's try the other side. Bring the left leg into position, knowing that there's ways to modify how much pressure you're putting on the knee or the hip. And for those of you who normally do pigeon on the ground, one day you might discover that this hip is too sore, this knee is too sore. Know that the chair is waiting for you and will help you find the posture anyway. Keep the left ankle flexed. Inhale, tall. Exhale. Om. And then the next time we might hold the forward fold position. Wherever we've come to is perfect. And repeat silently in your own mind as you exhale the sound of Om. And when you're ready to leave pigeon pose, you can come back to down dog, or you can come back to seated mountain pose with me. Close your eyes for a moment. Drink in the silence, that fourth state of consciousness, where we find that luminosity and that peace, that equanimity. And then we're going to move over onto our backs. So if you're with me on the chair, I'm sitting quite forward on the chair. I might bend my knees a bit more deeply, take the feet a little bit wider, and then without using my arms at all, I'm going to power up using all my leg and hip strength. I often like to have some cushioning on the mat when I'm lying down. So I have my blanket here, and I'm going to allow this blanket to cushion my spine because I work on a hardwood floor here, and sometimes I find that I just need that little extra kindness. Okay, we're down on our backs as soon as you're ready. Knees are bent, feet on the floor. If you have that block handy, you could have that and put it in between your knees. It again helps us to stabilize the lower part of the body, building strength in the hips and the legs. If you don't have a block, it's nothing to panic about. This is the last time we're going to move and incorporate Om. This is the version of bridge pose where you can take the arms back behind your head. So if you want to, you can do that. If you prefer not to do that, you can just leave the arms at your sides, it's fine. So when you're ready, press firmly into the floor, gather your legs into the block. When you're ready, lift the hips into bridge pose, extend the arms back behind you if you choose, and then exhale. And again, inhaling. And then, leaving the arms in position, exhale just the hips. Releasing the arms to your sides if they were extended. And just resting for the next 3 breaths, silently repeating the sound of Om as you exhale. Now, if there's anything else you need to do to help you feel settled and stretched out to get ready for shavasana, now would be the time to do that. But if you feel like you've had adequate movement in your body, let's move towards shavasana now. Let's move towards making ourselves comfortable, with blankets, pillows. Making sure you're warm enough. And settling towards the earth. So as you're moving towards your shavasana position, let's just review a little bit of what we've done today. We were acknowledging the power of sound to help organize physical matter. And in some ways, you might even think of that as healing. And Aum actually has 3 syllables that are reflective of the 3 states of consciousness, the 3 types of energy that form our world. And then we also explored the silence following the sound of Om, in which we can find that 4th divine state of pure consciousness. Each time we chant Om, we can think of it as an evolutionary movement from the material to the spiritual, unifying all aspects of ourselves. So now we move into a quiet time in our practice where we allow ourselves to experience the silence after the sound. Notice for yourself this morning your tendency to how you react to silence in your world. Notice the types of physical sensations. For me, I always itch somewhere. Notice the types of thoughts that come to you when it's silent. And can you greet all of these as just waves of energy? The physical sensations are the result of nerve endings being activated and sending waves of energy to the brain. And the thoughts are just waves and pulsations of energy through the brain as different synapses develop. So can you become familiar with your habits in times of silence? And let that be. Pushing away waves of energy. It's like trying to hold back the waves of the ocean. The power needs to be distributed. By using yoga techniques and our understanding of sound like Aum, we help to coordinate that energy and direct it where we need it. for our own healing. So let's just stay in shavasana for a few more minutes. If you find that you're having difficulty concentrating, if there's too many distractions for you, maybe silently repeating the sound of Om a few times. Now, if you would like to spend more time in silence, then please take that extra time. Stay in your shavasana. But what you might want to do is bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor, and just rock your knees from side to side a few times. Notice how that generates a little bit of wave of sensation. You gently reawaken your body to activity. And then roll right over onto your side and slowly press up from the ground. And please join me in a seated position. I've positioned myself seated on my chair. You may want to sit on the floor, but do make sure you have that support underneath your tushy. So we talk a lot about breathing in yoga, and we've talked before many times about how we breathe, how it affects the energy waves in our body. We're going to combine a specific way of breathing now with the sound of Om. So we're amping it up. We're really starting to power up the effect of what we're doing. So this is an energizing sort of way to breathe. And so this is a morning practice. I think it's appropriate. If you're doing this video at night, you might not want to do the breath practice. You can still chant Om with us, but don't do the breath practice on the inhales. That might not be appropriate in the morning or in the evening, sorry. So what this is even ratio breath. So we're going to inhale for about 4 or 5 counts, exhale for the same. On the exhales, we'll chant Om in the 3 parts, Aum, and leave the little silence at the end. But on the inhales, we're going to kind of shake it up a little bit in that we're going to inhale, stop, inhale some more, stop, and then finish inhaling, stop, and then start our Om chant. So it's a staggered inhale. So if you want to come with me, like as I said though, if you're doing this practice later on in the day, just do a smooth inhale. And if my breathing rhythm is too slow or too fast, you go at your own pace. That's one nice thing about being in your own home is you can customize this for yourself. So I'm going to close my eyes, bring my hands together at my heart to bring a prayerful attitude to this practice. And then inhaling a bit more, inhaling all the way. And again. as you continue this practice, to really enhance, bring your awareness to the third eye region. So as you inhale, you're breathing right into the third eye in your imagination. And imagine the exhale or the sound emanating right from that center point in the forehead. Let's do 3 more breaths like this. Let's take a nice deep normal inhale, lifting the arms, and then let the Om be as long as you can make it. Here we go. Inhaling. Namaste.